The Royal Canadian Air Force is the Air Force of Canada whose role is to provide the Canadian Forces with relevant, responsive and effective air power. The RCAF is one of 3 environmental commands within the unified Canadian Armed Forces. As of 2013, operating 258 manned aircraft and 9 unmanned aerial vehicles, the Royal Canadian Air Force consists of 14,500 regular force and 2,600 primary reserve personnel, supported by 2,500 civilians. Lieutenant-General Michael J. Hood, CMMCD, is the current commander of the Royal Canadian Air Force and Chief of the Air Force Staff. The Royal Canadian Air Force is responsible for all aircraft operations of the Canadian Forces, enforcing the security of Canada's airspace and providing aircraft to support the missions of the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Army. The RCAF is a partner with the United States Air Force in protecting continental airspace under the North American Aerospace Defense Command. The RCAF also provides all primary air resources to and is responsible for the National Search and Rescue Program. The RCAF traces its history to the Canadian Air Force, which was formed in 1920. The Canadian Air Force was incorporated in 1923 and granted royal sanction in 1924 by King George V. In 1968, the RCAF was amalgamated with the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Army as part of the unification of the Canadian Forces. Air units were split between several different commands: Air Defense Command, Air Transport Command, Mobile Command, Maritime Command, as well as Training Command. In 1975, some commands were dissolved, and all air units were placed under a new environmental command called simply Air Command. Air Command reverted to its historic name, the Royal Canadian Air Force, in August 2011. The Royal Canadian Air Force has served in the Second World War, the Korean War, the Persian Gulf War, as well as several United Nations peacekeeping missions and NATO operations. As a NATO member, the force maintained a presence in Europe during the second half of the 20th century. History: the Canadian Air Force was established in 1920 as the successor to a short-lived 2-squadron Canadian Air Force formed during the First World War. In Europe, the new Canadian Air Force was a branch of the Air Board and was chiefly a training militia that provided refresher training to veteran pilots. Many CAF members also worked with the Air Board's Civil Operations branch on operations that included forestry, surveying and anti-smuggling patrols. In 1923, the CAF became responsible for all flying operations in Canada, including civil aviation. In 1924, the Canadian Air Force was granted the royal title, becoming the Royal Canadian Air Force. Most of its work was civil in nature. However, in the late 1920s, the RCAF evolved into more of a military organization. After budget cuts in the early 1930s, the Air Force began to rebuild. During the Second World War, the RCAF was a major contributor to the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan and was involved in operations in Great Britain, Europe, the North Atlantic, North Africa, Southern Asia, and with home defense. By the end of the war, the RCAF had become the 4th largest Allied air force. After the war, the RCAF reduced its strength. Because of the rising Soviet threat to the security of Europe, Canada joined NATO in 1949, and the RCAF established No. 1 Air Division RCAF consisting of 4 wings with 3 fighter squadrons each based in France and West Germany. In 1950, the RCAF became involved with the transport of troops and supplies to the Korean War. However, it did not provide RCAF combat units. Members of the RCAF served in USAF units as exchange officers and several flew in combat. Both auxiliary and regular air defense squadrons were run by Air Defense Command. At the same time, the Pine Tree Line, the Mid-Canada Line and the Dew Line radar stations, largely operated by the RCAF, were built across Canada because of the growing Soviet nuclear threat. In 1957, Canada and the United States created the Joint North American Air Defense Command. Coastal defense and peacekeeping also became priorities during the 1950s and 1960s. 1968 present. In 1968, the Royal Canadian Navy, Royal Canadian Air Force and Canadian Army were amalgamated to form the Unified Canadian Forces. This initiative was overseen by then Liberal Defence Minister Paul Hellyer. The controversial merger maintained several existing organizations and created some new ones. In Europe, No. 1 Air Division operated Canada RCAF 104 Starfighter nuclear strike, attack and reconnaissance under NATO's 480AF Air Defense Command, operated McDonnell CF-101 Voodoo interceptors, CIM-10 Beaumont missiles and the SAGE radar system within NORAD Air Transport Command, provided strategic airlift for the NATO and UN peacekeeping missions, and training command. Aviation assets of the Royal Canadian Navy were combined with the RCAF Canada RCP-107 Argus long-range patrol aircraft under Maritime Command. In 1975, the different commands and the scattered aviation assets were consolidated under Air Command. In the early 1990s, Canada provided a detachment of CF-18 Hornets for the air defense mission in Operation Desert Shield. The force performed combat air patrols over operations in Kuwait and Iraq, undertook a number of air-to-ground bombing missions, and, on one occasion, attacked an Iraqi patrol boat in the Persian Gulf. In the late 1990s, Air Command CF-188 Hornets took part in the Operation Allied Force in Yugoslavia, and in the 2000s, AIRCOM was heavily involved in the Afghanistan War, transporting troops and assets to Kandahar. Later in the decade-long war, AIRCOM set up a purpose-specific Air Wing, Joint Task Force Afghanistan Air Wing, equipped with several CH-146 Griffin and CH-147 Chinook helicopters, CC-130 Hercules and leased Cu-170 Heron UAVs in support of the Canadian Forces and ISAF mission. The wing stood down on the 18th of August 2011. For the 18th of March to the 1st of November 2011, the RCAF was engaged in Operation Mobile, Canada's contribution to Operation Unified Protector in Libya. 7 CF-18 Hornet fighter aircraft and several other aircraft served under Task Force Libécho as part of the military intervention. On the 16th of August 2011, the Government of Canada announced that the name Air Command was being changed to the Air Force's original historic name, Royal Canadian Air Force. The change was made to better reflect Canada's military heritage and align Canada with other key Commonwealth countries whose military units use the Royal designation. The new RCAF adopted a new badge in 2013, which is similar to the pre-unification RCAF badge. The Latin motto of Air Command, Sic Itur ad astra, which was the motto of the Canadian Air Force when first formed after the First World War, was retained, though traditional insignia for the RCAF was restored in 2015. There has been no restoration of the traditional uniform uniforms a rank structure of the historical service. On the 17th of April 2014, Prime Minister Stephen Harper announced that Canada was dispatching 6 CF-18s and military personnel to assist NATO in operations in Eastern Europe. Aircraft. The Royal Canadian Air Force has approximately 391 aircraft in service, which is the 6th largest air force in the Americas, after the United States Air Force, United States Navy, United States Army, United States Marine Corps and Brazilian Air Force. Fixed-wing Airbus CC-150 Polaris, second-hand Airbus A310 transports purchased in 1992 for use as a strategic transports and air-to-air tankers to replace the Boeing CC-137. 2 have been converted to tankers and are designated the CC-150T. 1 is permanently configured for VIP transport. 5 aircraft operated by 437 Squadron based at 8 Wing Trenton, Ontario. BAE CT-155 Hawk, single-engined lead-in fighter trainer leased in 2000. 16 aircraft in service based at 15 Wing Moose Jaw, SK and 4 Wing Cold Lake, Alberta. Beechcraft King Air C-9OB multi-engine training aircraft. Leased to RCAF by Allied Wings. 7 aircraft are based at Portage La Prairie, MB. Boeing CC-177 Globemaster III-5 strategic airlifters operated by 429 Squadron based at 8 Wing Trenton, Ontario. 4 were delivered from 2007 to 2008. A 5th was delivered in 2015. Bombardier CC-144 Challenger, utility and VIP transport aircraft first delivered in 1982. Early Challenger 600 and 601 models were supplemented by 604 models in 2002. 4 aircraft are operated by 412 Squadron and based in Ottawa, but belong to 8 Wing Trenton. Canadair CT-114 Tutor, entered service in 1962 as a basic and advanced jet trainer with 190 originally ordered, replaced by the CT-156 Harvard II and CT-155 Hawk in 2000. A total of 27 aircraft remain in service, 24 of which are used by 431 Air Demonstration Squadron, the Snowbirds. DHCCC-115 Buffalo, a twin-engined utility cargo transport now used for search and rescue. 6 used by 442 Transport and Rescue Squadron at 19 Wing Comox, BC. DHCCC-138 Twin Otter, a twin-engined utility transport operated since the 1970s. 4 remain based at Yellowknife, NT. Twin-engined converted regional airliner entered service in 1987 as an aerial navigation and tactics trainer. 4 are operated by 402 City of Winnipeg Squadron and stationed at 17 Wing, Winnipeg, MB Grob 120A. Single-engine primary trainer used to train pilot candidates before they move on to the Harvard II. Leased to RCAF by Allied Wings. 11 aircraft are based at Portage La Prairie, MB. Lockheed CC-130H Hercules 4-engine tactical transport. Several versions have been operated since 1960. Remaining CC-130H is used for search and rescue and air-to-air refueling. 9 aircraft remain in service, 5 of which have been converted to air-to-air tankers. Based at 14 Wing Greenwood, NS 8 Wing Trenton on and 17 Wing Winnipeg, MB. Lockheed CP-140 Aurora, 4-engined maritime patrol aircraft based on the American Lockheed P-3 Orion entered service in 1980. 14 aircraft now based at 19-wing Comox, BC-in 14-wing Greenwood, NS Lockheed Martin CC-130J Super Hercules. 4-engine tactical airlift replacing earlier Hercules variants in that role. A total of 17 are in service, operated by 436 Squadron based at 8-wing Trenton. McDonnell Douglas CF-18 Hornet fighter entered service in 1982 when 98 single-seat CF-18As and 42-seat CF-18Bs were ordered. 17 have been lost since 1984. Stationed at 3-wing Bagotville, Quebec and 4-wing Cold Lake, Alberta, 73 CF-18s remain in active service. Raytheon CT-156 Harvard 2 single-engine trainer leased from 2000 to replace the Canadair CT-114 Tutor. 25 aircraft based at 15-wing Moose Jaw, SK rotary wing Bell CH-139 Jet Ranger single-engined utility and training helicopter, ordered for 3 Canadian Forces Flying Training School at CFB Portage La Prairie, MB, used by regular forces in CFB La in Germany and in Canada during the 1980s, replaced by CH-146 Griffins. 12 aircraft remain, leased from Allied Wings, used for flight training in Portage La Prairie, MB. Bell CH-146 Griffin, a utility transport tactical helicopter that entered service between 1995 and 1997. Original purchase of 100 aircraft to replace the CH-136QR, CH-135 Twin Huey, CH-118 Iroquois, and Boeing C model Chinook CH-47C. Based at Bagotville, Quebec, St. Hubert, Quebec, Cold Lake, Alberta, Gagetown, New Brunswick, Valcartier, Quebec, Goose Bay, Newfoundland, Edmonton, Alberta, Petawawa, Ontario and Borden, Ontario also perform search and rescue duties at 8-wing Trenton, deployed to Afghanistan to provide escorts for the Chinooks, armed with a combination of 7.62mm C6 machine gun, 7.62mm Dillon Aero M134D Gatling gun, and GAU-21. 50 caliber machine gun on one or both doors. 9 XRCAF Griffins, designated CT-146, a lease from Allied Wings for pilot training at Portage La Prairie, MB. Sikorsky CH-124 Sea King, a ship-based transport, anti-submarine helicopter that entered service between 1963 and 1969. Based at 12-wing Shearwater, NS and Patricia Bay, BC, and due to be replaced by the Sikorsky CH-148 Cyclone. AgustaWestland CH-149 Cormorant, triple-engine search and rescue helicopter that replaced the CH-113 Labrador, 14 delivered between 2000 and 2002. Based at 9-wing Gander, Newfoundland, 14-wing Greenwood, Nova Scotia and 19-wing Comox, British Columbia. 1 aircraft has been lost in a training accident. Sikorsky CH-148 Cyclone, ship-based transport, anti-submarine helicopter based on the Sikorsky H-92 Super Hawk, 28 ordered to replace the Sea King from 2009. Delays pushed the delivery date to 2015 when 6 were delivered. They are expected to enter service in 2016. Boeing CH-147F Chinook. The CH-147F Chinook is an advanced, multi-mission, medium-to-heavy lift helicopter. Its primary mission is the tactical transport of equipment and personnel during domestically deployed operations. 450 Tactical Helicopter Squadron, under the command of One Wing Kingston, ONT, and based in CFB Petawawa, ONT, was re-established as the home of Canada's fleet of 15 CH-147F Chinooks. The first two airframes underwent intensive operational test and evaluation in the United States for several months before Canada received the first airframe 147,303 at an official acceptance ceremony at the Ottawa International Airport on the 27th of June 2013. Leased and contractor aircraft. The Canadian Forces have leased aircraft from vendors to help transport troops and equipment from Canada and other locations in the past decade. Transport aircraft have been leased as required. Beechcraft B-200 Super King Air 2 aircraft leased from Aero Support Canada Inc. Used by the multi-engine utility flight out of CFB Trenton, flown by RCAF pilots. They are used for light transport of personnel and equipment within North America. Dornier Alpha-Jet Type 812 civil aircraft are operated by Discovery Air Defense Services for CATS and are based at CFB Bagotville. Ex-Luftwaffe trainers. Hawker Hunter F-5812 civil aircraft are operated by Lortie Aviation, formerly Northern Lights International Airlines Limited. Based out of CFB Cold Lake. Ex-Swiss Air Force jets. Weapons and other equipment. Weapons systems are used by the CF-18 Hornet, CP-140 Aurora, CH-146 Griffon and the CH-124 Sea King helicopters. Retired weapons. Current structure. The Commander of the Royal Canadian Air Force, located at National Defence Headquarters in Ottawa, commands and provides strategic direction to the Air Force. The Commander of 1 Canadian Air Division and Canadian NORAD region, based in Winnipeg, is responsible for the operational command and control of Air Force activities throughout Canada and worldwide. 2 Canadian Air Division, established in June 2009, consists of training establishments. There are 13 wings across Canada, 11 operational and 2 used for training. Wings represent the grouping of various squadrons, both operational and support, under a single tactical commander reporting to the operational commander. 10 wings also include a Canadian Forces base along with other operational and support units. The rank of general is held when an air officer is serving as Chief of the Defense Staff. The Chief of the Air Force Staff holds the rank of Lieutenant General. Divisions are commanded by Major Generals. Brigadier Generals are typically second in command of a division. Wings are commanded by Colonels. Squadrons are commanded by Lieutenant Colonels. Majors are typically second in command of squadrons, or flight commanders. Captains, lieutenants and second lieutenants are the junior level leaders in RCAF squadrons and headquarters. 1 Canadian Air Division 1 Wing Kingston. Headquartered at CFB Kingston, 1 Wing provides airlift support of troops and equipment anywhere in the world. Its tactical helicopter squadrons are spread out across Canada. 6 operate the CH-146 Griffon helicopter and 1 operates the CH-147F Chinook helicopter. 400 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. 403 Helicopter Operational Training Squadron. 408 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. 427 Special Operations Aviation Squadron. 430 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. 438 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. 450 Tactical Helicopter Squadron, 3-wing Bagotville, located in Quebec's Saguenay region. 3-wing provides general-purpose, multi-role, combat-capable forces in support of domestic and international roles of Canada's Air Force. It also provides search and rescue missions. 3 Air Maintenance Squadron, 414 Electronic Warfare Support Squadron, 425 Tactical Fighter Squadron, 433 Tactical Fighter Squadron, 439 Combat Support Squadron, 4-wing Cold Lake, the busiest fighter base in Canada. 4-wing provides general-purpose, multi-role, combat-capable forces in support of domestic and international roles of Canada's Air Force. Home of fighter pilot training for the Canadian Forces. 4-wing attracts top gun crews from all over the world to its annual air combat exercise. Maple Flag Cold Lake Air Weapons Range, north of the base, is the only tactical bombing range in Western Canada. The 1,000,000-hectare range includes the Primrose Lake Evaluation Range, 4 Wings Primary Test Range, 1 Air Maintenance Squadron, 401 Tactical Fighter Squadron, 409 Tactical Fighter Squadron, 410 Tactical Fighter Operational Training Squadron, 417 Combat Support Squadron, 419 Tactical Fighter Training Squadron, Aerospace Engineering Test Establishment, 5-wing Goose Bay, the site of NATO Tactical Ultra-Low-Level Flight Training in Canada. 5-wing, located in Labrador, hosts temporary detachments from several NATO nations. Goose Bay Weapons Range is the only tactical bombing range in eastern Canada. The 13,000,000-hectare range includes ultra-low-level flying training to 100 feet above ground level, supersonic flight areas, and an inert conventional and precision-guided munitions bombing range. 5-wing is the home of 444 Combat Support Squadron and serves as a NORAD CF-18 Hornet deployed operating base and airfield supporting a mix of aviation activities, military and civilian, in eastern Canada. 444 Combat Support Squadron, 8-wing Trenton. 8-wing is the heart of Canada's air mobility forces, from delivering supplies to the high Arctic to airlifting troops and equipment worldwide. It is also responsible for search and rescue in central Canada and home to the Skyhawks parachute team with the Canadian Army Advanced Warfare Centre. 8 Air Maintenance Squadron, 412 Transport Squadron, 424 Transport and Rescue Squadron, 426 Transport Training Squadron, 429 Transport Squadron, 436 Transport Squadron, 437 Transport Squadron. P. Canadian Forces Aerospace Warfare Centre. 9-wing Gander, providing search and rescue services to eastern Canada and the western Atlantic Ocean. SACRAs at 9-wing Gander fly the Auguste Westland CH-149 Cormorant helicopter and are responsible for a huge area, covering the lower Arctic, Labrador, Newfoundland, the Maritimes and the North Atlantic from the shores of Newfoundland to 30 degrees west. 103 Search and Rescue Squadron, 12-wing Shearwater, the center of naval aviation in Canada. 12-wing operates CH-124 Sea King helicopters, and supports the Royal Canadian Navy with helicopter air detachments for surface warships in the Atlantic and Pacific fleets. 12 Air Maintenance Squadron, 406 Maritime Operational Training Squadron, 423 Maritime Helicopter Squadron, 443 Maritime Helicopter Squadron. 14-wing Greenwood, located in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley, 14 wings CP-140 Aurora Curs conduct sovereignty and surveillance missions over the Atlantic Ocean routinely, while SAR capabilities for the Maritimes, Eastern Quebec and the Eastern Arctic are provided by CH-149 Cormorant helicopters and CC-130 Hercules fixed-wing aircraft. 14 Air Maintenance Squadron, 404 Maritime Patrol and Training Squadron, 405 Maritime Patrol Squadron, 413 Transport and Rescue Squadron, 17 Wing Winnipeg, comprising 3 squadrons and 6 schools. 17 Wing also provides support to the Central Flying School, as well as headquarters and administration support for NORAD operations. 402 City of Winnipeg Squadron, 435 Transport and Rescue Squadron, 440 Transport Squadron, 19 Wing Comox, located on Vancouver Island. Its Aurora Curs provides surveillance of the Pacific Ocean and Western and Arctic regions. The Buffalo and Cormorant Curs are responsible for search and rescue in British Columbia, Yukon and the North Pacific Ocean. The base is also used for training fighter pilots in tactical procedures on nearby ranges. 19 Air Maintenance Squadron, 407 Long-Range Patrol Squadron, 442 Transport and Rescue Squadron, 22 Wing North Bay. 22 Wing represents one of Canada's major contributions to the North American Aerospace Defense Agreement. Personnel watch over Canada's airspace 24 hours a day, using state-of-the-art sensors, computer and communications equipment. 21 Aerospace Control and Warning Squadron is the unit in CADS that carries out the air sovereignty of Canada. 51 Aerospace Control and Warning Operational Training Squadron. 2 Canadian Air Division. 2 Canadian Air Division is commanded by Brigadier General Bruce Plowman. From 2011 to 2013 the commanding officer was Brigadier General Martin Galvin. The initial announcement of the division, published after it was created on June 25, 2009, said, Brigadier General Rick Pitter assumed command of the Canadian Forces' most recent formation, the newly established 2 Canadian Air Division, Air Force Doctrine and Training Division in a formal ceremony at 17 Wing, Winnipeg on Thursday, June 25. The Air Force has embarked on what Brig. Gen. Pitter calls a new and exciting chapter in our rich Air Force history. Quote, Commander 2 Canadian Air Division is now responsible for all Air Force doctrine, individual training and education, in addition to the Canadian Aerospace Warfare Centre located at 8 Wing Trenton. Brigadier General Pitter will oversee the conduct and management of training establishments at 15 Wing Moose Jaw, 16 Wing Borden, and a new Air Force Training Centre comprising several Air Force schools and training institutions. In addition, he will have oversight of training conducted by the Prairie Cadet Region. 15 Wing Moose Jaw, the site of the NATO Flying Training Program in Canada, which is supported by 2 Canadian Forces Flying Training School. 15 Wing is also home to the Snowbirds, the Air Force's aerobatic team. 431 Air Demonstration Squadron. 16 Wing Borden. This base is the location of the largest training facility in the Canadian Forces. 16 Wings schools provide Air Force technical training and professional development and is the historic birthplace of the RCAF. 400 Tactical Helicopter Squadron is a Lodger unit based at Borden's Airfield. Other units: Canadian Forces School of Aerospace Technology and Engineering. The Canadian Forces School of Aerospace Technology and Engineering, located in Borden, Ontario, delivers aerospace engineering offices and conducts apprentice-level training for various trades, including avionics, aviation, aircraft aircraft structures and imagery technicians. The role of CFSATE is to provide the Air Force with qualified personnel to ensure aircraft serviceability. CFSATE develops and carries out individual aerospace engineering training in accordance with approved doctrine and standards. Former Units 2 Wing Toronto, closed 1996, part of the base is now 4th Canadian Division HQ. 7 Wing Ottawa, closed 1995. 18 Wing Edmonton, located in Edmonton, Alberta. It was the base for 408 Tactical Helicopter Squadron, 418 City of Edmonton Air Reserve Squadron, 435 Transport Squadron, 440 Transport and Rescue Squadron, and 447 Transport Helicopter Squadron. It closed in 1994 and transferred to Land Force Command as Army Base CFB Edmonton, where 408 Tactical Helicopter Squadron is the sole remaining air unit. Joint Task Force Afghanistan Air Wing Kandahar, Afghanistan. The organization was composed of 4 units: P. Canadian Helicopter Force, 6 CH-147D Chinook Heavy Lift Helicopters, 8 CH-146 Griffin Tactical Support Helicopters, Armed Theater Support Elements EC-130 Hercules Tactical Transport Aircraft, P. Canadian Heron UAV Detachment Heron Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Canadian TUAV Squadron CU-161 SPOA Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. As the tasking authority responsible for the Canadian Contracted Air Transport Unit, the Wing Commander provided advice, coordination and supervision over its 6 leased Mi-8 medium-lift helicopters. The Air Wing had about 450 personnel, serving with the theater support element in the Persian Gulf region and the tactical UAV flight at Kandahar Airfield.